Thank you for joining us here at SSC Live TV. Dr. Ken Jobst will be discussing how your dietary habits can assist you in your spiritual goals. Welcome to Taste and See.
Hello and welcome to Taste and See. My name is Ken Jobst, and we are here at the intersection of faith and food. Today we're going to be talking about something very, very important. Today we're going to be talking about appetite. You know, appetite can be seen a couple of different ways. Sometimes we understand appetite as a God-given motivator to keep us well fed. And other times, appetite can be a problem. So today on Taste and See, we're going to take a look at a scripture which gives us a warning about controlling our appetites in a couple of different settings. Today we're going to look at the book of Proverbs, Proverbs chapter 23, and verses 1 through 7. Now, to give a little bit of context, the book of Proverbs was originally a book that was compiled to teach young princes how to govern. And as we take a look at the entirety of the book of Proverbs, we see that the Proverbs move from being home-centered to being wisdom that we acquire from a school or from an academy to wisdom that we acquire through being in new situations and perhaps in foreign lands even. But as a part of the education of the young prince, these verses from Proverbs chapter 23, verses 1 through 7, are particularly important for a prince who's going to be invited to a banquet. Perhaps it's a banquet of some other ruler. Perhaps this has something to do with diplomacy or making a treaty with one of the other countries in the region. But listen to what the writer of Proverbs says. When you sit down to eat with a ruler, consider carefully what is put before you, and put a knife to your throat if you're a man given to appetite. Do not desire his delicacies, for they are deceptive food. Then I'm going to continue down in verse 6. Verse 6 says this: do not eat the bread of a miser, nor desire his delicacies. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, he says to you, but his heart is not with you. Now, the writer of Proverbs, Solomon, is giving the prince a couple of different warnings here. The first warning that the king is giving to the prince is this: that when you go to another king's table, that king is going to put all sorts of things before you. And you're going to have to carefully consider what you choose to eat and how you choose to eat it, what impression that's going to make on the king. And so here's the warning that Solomon gives to the young princes. It says, look, if you're a man given to appetite, which means if you let your appetite run away with you, you'd be better off to put a knife to your throat. Because, says the writer of Proverbs, we don't desire his delicacies. Don't come to the king's feast or the king's diplomatic state dinner. Don't come there to satisfy your hunger. There's other reasons you should be there. It's about diplomacy. It's about discussing. Don't just sit there with your nose down in the plate shoveling in food. Do not desire his delicacies, for they are deceptive food. Just like our words can be deceptive, here a king is going to be using food as a deceptive agent to maybe get an advantage on another prince. So the king says, beware of kings who may give you deceptive food. And then, interestingly, just a couple verses later, in verse 6, he says, do not eat the bread of a miser, nor desire his delicacies. Right? That's exactly the same words used previously. Do not desire the delicacies of the delicacies of the king who's trying to get, a treaty ratified. Also, do not desire the delicacies of a miser. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, he's going to say to you, but his heart's not with you. So, what do we have here? We have a warning about appetite. By the way, and my high school Latin teacher, Mrs. Platt, who has gone on to be with the Lord now, but she would be so proud of me to be able to point out that the word appetite comes from the Latin appetare, which means to desire strongly. So don't let your desires overwhelm the situation. Be aware of your appetites. Be able to channel those appetites to a positive end. Another thing that's being warned here by the king to the princes is the possibility of false hospitality. Hospitality that may appear to be extended, but it's a hospitality that has another agenda behind it. The king may offer false hospitality, or a miser may offer false hospitality. But if you're driven by appetite, that your appetites will be a trap for you in these two instances. So be careful what you eat when you're before the king. Be careful what you eat if you're in the presence of a miser. If a miser is your host, be careful what you eat. Which brings us to today's taste and see ingredient. And I dearly love this particular thing that we're going to be talking about today. It is the most non-pretentious food in the American pantry. It is the humble peanut butter. Now, I've got to tell you what, I dearly love peanut butter. However, and I got my however out here. However, I dearly love chunky peanut butter of the Jif recipe. Now, we're going to get into this in just a moment. But look at that. I have a preference on something as humble as peanut butter. Now, peanut butter, you know how much peanut butter people eat in a year in the United States? Have you ever just wondered? 700 million pounds of peanut butter every year gets served in the United States. 700 million pounds. And here's one of the reasons I'm bringing this out now at this time. Because during the pandemic, right, when so many restaurants are closed, and hopefully they're opening up now. I'm on the schedule to get my shot tomorrow, my first shot. But even in the context of the pandemic, peanut butter consumption has increased about 3.33% over last year, over the pre-pandemic year of 2019. What does that say? That says there's a lot of people that are at home and they're thinking, what am I going to fix tonight? Or what am I going to fix for lunch? And, well, by and large, quick, easy, painless, cheap peanut butter, right? What did I have for breakfast this morning? For breakfast, I had peanut butter and jelly on toast. It's part of my daily routine. I can barely get through the day without having peanut butter in one form or another. You know what? Peanut butter just on bread, peanut butter on crackers, or as my wife, the charming Elisa, would say, peanut butter goes in pad thai. So she's the one that's going to whip up the pad thai and put the chunky peanut butter in it, and it is absolutely amazing. Now, when I was growing up, I was taught I was taught that George Washington Carver invented peanut butter. But as it turns out, George Washington Carver invented more than 300 different things you could make with peanuts, but somebody had already invented peanut butter. Go figure. So anyway, all this to say, peanut butter was, the first person to develop peanut butter was a Canadian guy named George Bale was the first person to produce a peanut butter, and he sold that peanut butter, watch this, as food for rich people. It was something that was acquired by the wealthy. Then a guy named John Harvey Kellogg of the Kellogg cereals, company, he was the one that actually got the patent on peanut butter. So he patented peanut butter. How can you patent peanut butter? Well, he patented the process whereby he was making peanut butter back in 1895. So we're like 125 years into the peanut butter revolution, right? 90% of households in America, you knock on the door, you ask them, do you have any peanut butter? 90% of households in America have peanut butter. And watch this. The typical school kid in the United States, the typical, right, will eat 1,500 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches from the time they're in kindergarten up till the time they graduate from high school. Now, another thing is kind of interesting to me here. Peanut butter, by and large, seems to be pretty exclusively an American phenomenon. Most of the world sees peanut butter as an unpalatable American curiosity, right? They just don't really know what to do with it. It's kind of like how we feel about Marmite, or Vegemite. We got no idea what to do with it. Anyway, oh, by the way, another thing. You may well know that in the NBA, peanut butter and jelly is like the favorite pregame snack. Because, it's got the calories, it gives you a little bit of energy, it's got the protein in it, it's going to keep you from getting hungry while you're out on the floor. And so across the NBA, and different caterers for different teams, different players have different preferences on the peanut butter and preferences on the jelly, but you can find PB&Js at just about any NBA game before the game. One more thing I want to say about peanut butter, and that is a connection to peanut butter and Simmons College of Kentucky. And right here, as it turns out, I would just like to say a word in remembrance of our the late departed former trustee chair at Simmons College of Kentucky, Cecil Barney Barnett Jr., who was the CEO, and he was the man with Algood Foods here in Louisville, Kentucky. And it's the Algood Foods plant that was it still is, one of the largest producers of peanut butter in the United States. Wow. And the product that he made, I have this particular jar that he made for Simmons College of Kentucky and the National Baptist Convention of America Incorporated, right? And this is a commemorative jar of peanut butter, and it says, "Stronger Together." So just like peanut butter is stronger with jelly, so Algood Foods and Simmons College of Kentucky and Barney Barnett and the NBCA, we're all just stronger together. By the way, I've had this for a good several years, and I think some of the other, you may have seen this before, but that just brings back good, warm memories to me of truly a civic, a wonderful civic philanthropist and wonderful guy, Barney Barnett.
I have known Barney Barnett for about 20 years, and he was always present and available whenever you needed Barney.
I can't think of one person that I admire more than him. He was full of wisdom, full of compassion, just a wonderful, wonderful leader.
My fondest memory of Barney is last year at the Simmons College of Kentucky's graduation, and we had 26 graduates that were very excited in cap and gown, and there we were, the trustees, and I don't know, it seemed like 1,000 people were there, and a special announcement was made that a gift was going to be given to each graduate from the chairman of the trustees, Barney Barnett, and his wife Gillian, and each student received a $1,000 check. Oh my goodness, the hooting and hollering excitement. And what Barney did, he and his wife in that moment, in that gift, is they gave much more than their money to these students, these graduates. They gave them hope. They said, we believe in you and we believe in your future, so keep working. That's the Barney that I remember and that I will always love and cherish.
The one word I think that captures Barney is empathy. Sympathy is when you feel sorry for someone, but empathy goes much deeper than sympathy. Empathy is when you have, in the words of the Native Americans, walked a mile in someone else's moccasins. I think Barney never contracted amnesia and forgot from his humble beginnings. So therefore, he always recognized that someone had given him a lift, and so he wanted to use his fortune and his advantage to help others have fortune and advantage. He was perhaps one of the most empathetic persons to walk on the planet Earth. What a wonderful man was Barney Barnett.
Will it twist? Yes, it will. Okay. Tamarind, not cinnamon. Ooh. And maybe just a little bit of chocolatey kind of, oh yeah. Okay. This chocolate sneaks up on you. This is not chocolate that like jumps out in front of you. This is chocolate that 5 seconds after you place it on your tongue, then you get the chocolate sensation. This is unlike anything I've ever had before in my entire life. God bless you. Now, his product, by the way, at Algood Foods, they made peanut butters and jellies, right? And they made them largely that could be on other labels. So we have here, let me kind of go through the list. And I'm going to begin with creamy generic peanut butter, right? Creamy peanut butter. This is Elisa's favorite. This is the peanut butter that goes into the cookies. It's the peanut butter that we use in the pad thai and so many different applications. It's a wonderful product, right? And right here's the big jar. My favorite is crunchy. Now, it's not just the crunch. And I want you to notice red cap, blue cap. Red cap is the industry standard recipe. Industry standard recipe that's going to include the peanuts and the emulsifiers. I'll talk about emulsifiers in just a second. The blue cap has added molasses to give it a little bit more sweetness. So how much do I like the blue cap? Let me show you. There's my blue cap right there, right? I've got the standard size, but this is the size that hangs around the household that we do the most with. Nonetheless, I digress. There's Gold Top. And Gold Top is a little innovation that you might like to try sometime. It is honey peanut butter. Peanut butter that is sweetened not with molasses like the Blue Top, but with honey. So a little different flavor. By the way, I want to just say a word about the simple pleasures of life. That, you know what, there are the little things in life that can bring us such remarkable joy. And one of those little things, for me, is opening a new jar of peanut butter. And when you open that jar of peanut butter and you pry up the little seal that's in it, oh yeah, wow. That first big peanut aroma that hits you is just, that's a good, it's a good thing. But you know what? Some folk may be allergic to peanuts. I understand that. I don't play around with food allergies. You got a food allergy, you need to pay attention to it. And so one of the other things that's on the market right now is sun butter, which is sunflower seed butter. And this is produced in a factory that is certified free of the top 10 allergens. There's no peanuts in the factory, tree nuts, milk, eggs, fish, crustacean shellfish, wheat, and soybeans. So you may want to try sun butter if you know somebody who has a peanut allergy and go for that. Now, I have reserved on this end of the table a couple of other innovations. Maybe this is a retro thing in the peanut butter world. We have both creamy and crunchy retro peanut butter. Natural crunchy, right? Now, what makes it natural? The natural thing for these two is that they are made with two ingredients, peanuts and a little bit of salt, and that's it. And if you take a look at this, and you'll see that right there on the top in these peanut butter jars, there is oil. The oil has separated from the peanut solids that are settled at the bottom. And in order to deal with that appropriately, you've got to open the jar. And as we open the jar right here, I'm just going to do this over a napkin, okay? You know me. So I'm opening up our peanut butter, and look, there's the little foil. And so I lift the foil lid ever so gingerly, because you know what? Yeah, it's peanut oil right there. So we got that all worked in. Now, with a little bit of peanut oil on my hands, we stir it. And just taking the knife and starting to work with the peanut. Wow, look at that. There's all kinds of this is the crunchy. So the crunchy has the peanuts right on top, and we're working them right in as we go around the peanut butter jar. There should be a song that one could sing while doing this. So somebody get to me with a peanut butter stirring song. Anyway, as we continue, we stir it a little bit more, and you will find that the dry peanut butter is moistened by the oil, and ba-boom, ba-bing, there you go. Now, there's a little bit of work involved, but watch this. Once again, there's only two ingredients in these varieties, peanuts and salt. In the other varieties, they use an emulsifier, which is going to keep the oil bonded to the rest of the peanut butter. So if you're into health food, if it makes a difference to you, or if you just like to stir peanut butter in the jar, go ahead and get that particular peanut butter. Now, where does peanut butter come from? We just said peanuts, right? But watch this. It's dry roasted peanuts. It's not like cocktail peanuts, but the peanuts that go into peanut butter are dry roasted first, and then they're crushed and processed and made into the peanut paste or peanut butter. So these peanuts are cooked in oil, right? So they're kind of like fried. But the dry roasted peanuts are those that get crushed into peanut butter and processed. Now, artisanal peanut butter, we're going to have a little taste test here as I reach over for my short loaf of bread, and with just a few moments, we're going to try some of the artisanal, some of the honey. and some of the natural. And we're going to see what the difference happens to be. Boom, here we go. Oh, this is much harder when you have peanut oil on your hands. We should have factored that in. And pulling this top, we have the smooth honey flavored peanut butter. And we put it's spread, very spreadable. Of course, it's a nice warm day and the peanut butter is spreading fairly well. This is the honey recipe. Pardon me, here we go. And I'm just going to take a small very nice. The peanut flavor is still clearly the dominant flavor. The honey is the sweetness, and it's just a touch of honey that you're going to notice. It's a lighter flavor than the molasses flavor that goes right here in the traditional blue cap peanut butter, but it is entirely delightful. I really, I'm going to, well, yeah, we'll come back to that in just a moment. But now I want to try the chunky. And this may require just a little bit more stirring. By the way, when you open this peanut butter that separates, it's highly recommended that you keep it refrigerated. So refrigerate the old style peanut butter. Be sure, and you know, its shelf life is a concern because it doesn't have the preservative, right? So here we go. This right here, we're going, all right, right there. It is beautifully chunky because, as I said earlier, I'm a big fan of the chunky peanut butter. Here we go. Here we go. Now, to try just a little bit more of that right here. You knew what was going to happen when I start eating peanut butter, right? Oh. Okay. Now, I did not think I would be able to be persuaded away from the blue cap. But you know what? I can see a place for the natural peanut butter that is just peanuts and salt. That's very nice. And as a matter of fact, I think I might use this in cooking more. I might use this for the next batch of peanut butter cookies that I come up with. One final recipe, one thing for us to do as you are wondering what's going to happen to all of this peanut butter. One of my favorites is to make Buckeyes, which is a combination of peanut butter and confectioner's sugar, and basically that little butter, you put them all together, you make them into little balls, put them in the refrigerator to cool them, and then bring them out and dip them in melted semi-sweet chocolate. So it makes something that looks like a Buckeye. So that's probably going to be where we go with so many of these. God bless you and thank you so much. What a wonderful, wonderful team we have here. Now, before we go, I want to go back to our scripture, back to Proverbs. And remember, Proverbs is some practical information about governance to those who are going to be in positions of leadership. And remember that the essential idea that's being communicated in Proverbs here is not to let your appetites run away with you. And if you're given to delicacies, right, then be aware that that can work against you in particular situations. Now, beware of eating the bread of a miser. Beware of just going to the king's dinner party just to eat. It's not always about the food. Watch. It's about the relationship. And I've established plenty of relationships on the playground, in the neighborhood, over a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It doesn't always have to be that filet mignon, that the most humble food can still be the basis of tremendously long-lasting relationships. So, not about the food, it's about the relationship. Well, wish you all the best and hope that you are all staying very healthy and happy during this time. And like to invite you to come back and check us out once again at Taste and See. My name is Ken Jobst. This is SSC Live TV. It's television our way, and we're just so glad that you've been a part of it. Tell somebody about us, and be back next week to see a new edition of Taste and See. Until then, God bless you. Bye-bye.